Hi, my name is Taryn Wise, and I'm the pastor here at Shiloh Christian Church. And if you have found us here this morning, if you are looking for a church, if you live in the northern Colorado area, I want to invite you to come be a part of something special. Shiloh is a church of home churches across the northern Colorado area. We don't meet in a building like traditional churches do, but we meet in homes on Sunday mornings. In community, for us, we are focused on two things. We're focused on Jesus and we're focused on community. We're focused on pursuing the character of Jesus, the holiness of Jesus through His Word, and we're committed to doing so in relationship with other people. I would love for you to come join us. I would love for you to come check us out one of these Sundays. Regardless of where you live, we are a community that is pursuing Jesus, that is pursuing a community with other believers in that pursuit of Jesus. And we would love for you to be a part of that. If you want more information, you can check out our website at shilohchristianchurch.org, and we hope to see you soon. Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming together this morning. Thank you for gathering. Happy Sunday to all of you. I know that some of you parents started some new routines this past week, Monday through Friday, getting up a little bit earlier, maybe realize some kids need to start taking some naps. But it is a exciting part of the year. The hot temps are going to start dwindling a little bit. Kids start getting back to school. We get back into routine. And I know a lot of you are looking forward to the months ahead. There is 2 weeks from today, a group of us that will be enjoying church together, not in our home churches, but in Kenya. 2 weeks from today, the 10 of us going will be starting our first full day in Kenya at church with Charles and Rael, which we are so excited for. And beyond excited for. And I want to ask all of you to please be praying for this trip. Even here on this side of us going, just be praying that everything works out. There's no complications. I know Satan will be working to bring about confusion, to bring about some anxiety and worry. And I want to ask even this morning, before our morning is done together in the home churches, that you guys spend some time praying for this trip. We are so blessed to be able to go to spend this time with some people that we love over there and are excited to see what it is that God does. So please be praying for that trip 2 weeks from today. Today I want to begin our time, this message time, by playing a little game, a little word association game. And what I'm going to do is ask all of you to participate in this. I am going to say a word, and I want you in like a second or less to say the first word that comes to your mind, the first appropriate word that comes to your mind. And like if I say summer, then out loud, I want all of you to say the first word that comes to your mind, hot or fun or almost over, whatever it may be. If I say groceries, you would say expensive, whatever, Safeway, King Super, something like that. As I say a word, the first word or first group of words that come to your mind, I want you to say them out loud. And what makes this game fun is when you participate and you play this game out loud. So as you say what it is that comes to your mind, also be listening to what it is that the neighbors around you say as well. And if something really awkward happens, you guys are welcome to pause this video and address that. I got 7 words for you. Everybody says out loud the first thing that comes to their mind. All right, here we go. First word is school. All right, hopefully everybody participated. If someone didn't participate, point to them right now, embarrass them, shame them, so that they can play with the second word. Second word is this: government. I'm sure all of you will pause and address that one. Third word is religion. Fourth word, Jesus. Fifth word, money. Sixth word, work. And seventh and final word, interruptions. What comes to your mind when you hear the word interruptions? As you look at these 7 words and as you look at the unfiltered responses to these 7 words, our responses reveal a lot about how we feel about each one of these topics. Government, some of you probably just moaned or something instead of actually saying a word. That reveals what it is that you feel towards the government. If we say the word Jesus, some of you, depending on your stories, probably had some different words. Some of you may be Savior. Some of you may be peace. Some of you may be King. Your unfiltered responses to these words reveal so much about how you feel in regards to that word. While we could spend probably a week looking at each one of these words and the significance of these words and the significance of our reactions to these words, what I want to do today and for the next couple of weeks is address the last word that we looked at, interruptions. As we all said, the first thing that came to our mind when I said the word interruptions, probably none of you said love or blessed or favorite thing, right? When we say our unfiltered responses to the word interruptions, it was probably negative for almost all of us because probably none of us enjoy interruptions. Interruptions are never loved. Interruptions are never timely. Interruptions are never favorable. For me, I think of like a child hanging over my bed at 2 a.m. when I roll to the other side and open my eyes and there's just like a dark figure sitting at the foot of my bed staring at me, interrupting a good night's sleep. I don't like that. I don't enjoy the dark figure hanging over me in the middle of the night while I sleep. For some of you who maybe work from home, when the solar panel guy knocks on your door from the 73rd company in the last 3 weeks offering to put free solar panels on your roof, interrupting your workflow or the phone conversation that you're on or the TV show that you're watching, that interruption is not welcomed. It's not enjoyed. It's not appreciated. It's not timely. For Jamie and I, in our cul-de-sac, somebody decided to buy a rooster that apparently has a traumatic brain injury of some sort because it crows nonstop at all hours of the day. A rooster literally has 2 jobs in its life. One of those is to crow when the sun comes up. This rooster has not figured that out. So we might be out in the evening, sitting on the back porch, the rooster's crowing his head off. I might be outside trying to take a phone call away from the children in the home so that they can't hear it and I don't want to be interrupted, and the rooster is crowing his head off. It's not timely. I don't like the interruptions of the rooster. For probably all of us, we can understand this. When you're on a phone call and you're driving somewhere and you hit a dead spot, it's 2025. There should not be dead spots, certainly not in a city the size of Fort Collins. But when you're on this important phone call and then all of a sudden the person interrupts you on the other line and they're like, hello? Hello? Can you hear me? And you were in the middle of a story. Those interruptions are not welcomed. We don't like those. And for all of us this morning, we don't enjoy interruptions, do we? But what if interruptions were what God used to get your attention? What if God interrupted your life and interrupted your phone call and interrupted your train of thought and interrupted your TV show and interrupted your night of sleep so that He could get your attention? What if we stopped looking at all interruptions as something negative and instead recognize that maybe God is trying to speak to me? Maybe God is trying to get my attention. Maybe God is trying to divert me from this path that I am on and take me in a different direction. What if the interruptions of doors opening or doors closing were not looked at as burdens, but instead we're recognized as God redirecting us, interrupting the course that we are on and moving us in a different direction. The reason that we are doing this series right now, and the reason that I'm excited for this series, is because I believe that a number of you are being interrupted in divine ways right now. I believe that a number of you, through conversations that I have had with you, through just kind of this view of the landscape, the religious, faith-filled landscape in Fort Collins right now, we are seeing a lot of godly interruptions. And I know that some of you know exactly what I am talking about. For some of you, you have had doors close recently that you're looking at and you're like, God, I thought I was walking through that door, but it got interrupted. For some of you, there have been doors that have been opened where you're like, wow, this is interesting timing, right? This opportunity just came up, this relationship just started. Like I met this person and our stories were the same, or they said something that it wasn't important to them, but it is really important to me. I believe that a number of you are being interrupted right now, this week, next week, last month, and the month to come. And for some of you, you're seeing those and you're hearing those interruptions. For some of you, you need to stop so that you can hear and see those interruptions. Throughout history, throughout certainly the stories of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, you see God moving and working in ways frequently to interrupt people and to interrupt the journey or the path that they are on. It is guaranteed, it is promised that on more than one occasion in your life, God is going to throw something in front of you, some type of interruption to get your attention and to move you in a different direction. If you look at the Old Testament in Genesis 6, you have God going to Noah and telling Noah, interrupting Noah's life and telling him, hey, I need you to build this huge boat because I'm about to end it all here. And for Noah, probably not on his radar to spend some time with his family building a boat so that they could be the only survivors. Probably not on Noah's radar that he should start getting 2 of each animal species and bringing them onto the boat so that they can continue post-flood, something that he has no understanding of whatsoever. And yet, that's what happens. God interrupts Noah's life and calls him to do something that Noah never could have understood the importance of. But God interrupted his life. In Genesis 37, you have Joseph, who is thrown into a well by his brothers. Real cool move by the older brothers to throw him into a well. And then as if that wasn't enough, they pull him out and then they sell him into slavery to a passing caravan that ultimately ends up in Egypt. Joseph's entire life was interrupted by his brothers, thrown into a cistern, sold into slavery, and he never could have understood the significance of that interruption. And yet, God interrupted Joseph's life. In Exodus 3, Moses is out taking care of the flocks, and all of a sudden he sees a bush that is on fire but not burning, and he approaches it, and this voice comes out and tells him to take off his sandals because he's standing on holy ground. And then the voice continues to tell him, I want you to get my people from Pharaoh, from the greatest superpower in the world. Tell that guy, that leader, to let my people go, and I want you, Moses, to lead them. Moses' entire life was interrupted in that moment. Moses, that morning when he woke up, never could have understood the significance that day would hold. And yet, God interrupted his life and called him to something great. In 1 Samuel 16, David is just out shepherding, and he gets called back to the house by his brothers. And as he walks into the house, his dad is there, some of his brothers are there. And there's a guy standing there in his presence, and they're all standing. They've been told they can't sit. And as David walks into the presence of these men, he is anointed. Never could have understood the significance of what that meant, but David was being anointed as the next king of Israel. For a young shepherd, for a teenage boy, he never could have understood the significance of the interruption that day. In the New Testament, Mary and Joseph, Mary getting preggers when she has not slept with her to-be husband, a pretty big interruption. Joseph receiving the word from Mary, hey, I don't know how to pitch this to you. I'm pregnant. I know you and I haven't slept together. I promise I have been faithful, but I'm pregnant and I guess we're getting married and you're the father. Like a huge interruption to Mary and Joseph's life. The shepherds who are out in the field and see an angel and see the star, their lives are interrupted by the arrival of the Messiah. Peter, when Jesus goes and calls him to follow him, to be one of his disciples, Jesus says, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. For Peter and the men who were called to follow Jesus, a pretty big interruption to their entire career, to everything that they've known, to everything that they have invested in, to their way of life, to the way of making income and providing for their family. A pretty big interruption when Jesus shows up and calls them to follow him. In Acts 9, you have Saul, who would change his name to Paul, who's been persecuting Christians. And at the beginning of Acts 9, you see that Saul is like full bore, let's kill them all. And immediately on the road to Damascus is met by Jesus, met by God, ultimately through a blinding light. And as Saul asks, who are you? He says, I'm the one you're persecuting. Saul's entire life up until that moment was about being like the best Jew and about persecuting Christians. And in a moment, on a journey, while he was walking, his entire life forever interrupted by this experience that he has with God. You see, throughout history, God has been interrupting the lives of those who follow him and calling them to something great, removing them from a path that they have been on and placing them on the path that he has marked out for them. And it would be foolish of us to think that he does not do that today. It would be foolish of us to think that God will not interrupt our own lives and call us to something. It would be foolish of us to think that God is not still working today the way that he has always been working. For some of you, you may be waking up at 2 a.m. every morning irritated, but failing to recognize that it is God who is waking you up at 2 a.m. so that he can speak to you and so that you will listen. For some of you, maybe you've had some dreams, maybe you've had some visions, maybe you've had some type of revelation, maybe you have had something that has happened that you would not have done or thought or said on your own. And that happened because God is interrupting you. For some of you, you want to hear the voice of God so bad, and yet you're logging 5 and 6 and 7 hours of media consumption every single day, wondering why it is that God is not speaking to you. For some of you, you're pursuing something in your life, maybe a career, maybe a relationship, maybe the opportunity for a big change for your family, and you're just like, God, I don't know, you're silent forever, apparently. You're failing to recognize that because of the amount of time that you spend busy and in a noisy world, you simply have not allowed your ears the opportunity to hear the voice of God. We're going to read a story today, and I want you to pay attention to the story, obviously, as a whole, but I want you to pay attention to the very last verse of it as well. If you have your Bibles, you can open up to 1 Samuel. And in 1 Samuel, you have a story of a young boy whose life is interrupted in the middle of the night, ironically. You have the story of Samuel, a boy who recognizes that he's hearing something. He doesn't understand it at first. He certainly doesn't understand the significance of it even afterwards. But Samuel's story starts even before Samuel is born. In 1 Samuel chapter 1 and 2, you have the story of a mother named Hannah who desires to have a baby. Hannah is married and has not been able to conceive her own child. Hannah wants to be pregnant and has not been. And some of you can understand this. Some of you couples, you know what this feels like. This desire, this longing that is so strong and so overwhelming. We want to have our own child and we can't get pregnant, and you can't seem to understand why God is not working and moving. And you have in the first 2 chapters of 1 Samuel this young mother who is crying out to God like, God, please give me a child. And you have an incident that unfolds where she's at the temple and she is praying earnestly, and the priest thinks that she's drunk because it looks like she's praying, but her mouth is moving and there's no words coming out of it. And you recognize like the agony and the pain of this mother as she cries out to God, please give me a child. She makes this deal with God and she says, if you give me a child, I will give him back to you. I will dedicate his life to you and he will work in service to you. So God gives Hannah this child whose name is Samuel. And Hannah, after she gives birth, she raises Samuel to somewhere between 3 and 5 years old. She weans him, and at that point she brings him back to the temple and gives him to the priest and says, remember me, I was the one that you accused of being drunk. I was the one crying out for a child, and God gave me that child. God blessed me with this child. But the deal I made with God is that I would give this child back to God so that he could serve God. And so I'm here and I'm giving this child back to you, not leaving him forever, not walking away from him, but from this point on for the rest of his life is God's. And so in 1 Samuel 3, you have this young boy named Samuel, who's truly a young boy, laying in his bed, and God interrupts it. And I want to read the whole chapter together this morning. 1 Samuel chapter 3, it says, the boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. I want you to stop right there and recognize that there are times in life when God is working and moving and interrupting and calling out and loud and seen and vocal. And there are also seasons of life where God is not seen and not vocal and not giving people visions and not interrupting people's lives. There are times when those visions are plentiful and those interruptions are plentiful. And there are times when those visions and those interruptions are rare. We are not in the latter of those times right now. And many of you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Verse 2, one night Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel answered, here I am. And he ran to Eli and said, here I am. You called me? But Eli said, I did not call. Go back and lie down. So he went and lay down. Again the Lord called Samuel. And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, here I am. You called me? My son, Eli said, I did not call. Go back and lie down. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. So much in that verse. Verse 8. A third time the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, here I am. You called me? Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. The Lord came and stood there, calling as at the other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel said, speak, for your servant is listening. And the Lord said to Samuel, see, I am about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle. At that time I will carry out against Eli everything I spoke against his family from beginning to end. For I told him that I would judge his family forever because of the sin he knew about. His sons blasphemed God, and he failed to restrain them. Therefore I swore to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering. Samuel lay down until morning, and then opened the doors of the house of the Lord. He was afraid to tell Eli the vision, but Eli called him and said, "Samuel, my son." Samuel answered, "Here I am." "What was it he said to you?" Eli asked. "Do not hide it from me. May God deal with you, be it ever so severely, if you hide from me anything he told you." So Samuel told him everything, hiding nothing from him. Then Eli said, "He is the Lord. Let him do what is good in his eyes." The Lord was with Samuel as he grew up, and he let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. And all Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, recognized that Samuel was attested as a prophet of the Lord. Verse 21, the Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and there he revealed himself to Samuel through his word. For so many of us today, as we seek God's direction and as we seek God's vision, we fail to go to the source of it. Verse 21 tells us that God continued to reveal himself to Samuel, yes, at Shiloh, but through his word. For some of you, you've been seeking direction. You've been waiting for doors to open or doors to close, or opportunities to present themselves or opportunities to not present themselves. You've been waiting for something, looking for something, yearning for something, and failing to open your Bible. And yet, that is where God so often reveals himself, is through his word. I want to make the message of today, your takeaway, very, very simple. And the takeaway is this: God is working right now in these days. God is speaking right now in these days. God is interrupting the lives of some of you, certainly myself, some of the other pastors in town right now in ways that he has not been doing. Right now, in these days, the Word of God, the visions of God, the interruptions of God are becoming less and less rare and more common. For those who have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, I believe that you will begin hearing and seeing the interruptions of God more than maybe ever before in your life. What I want you to take away from this morning is the recognition that God may be interrupting your life right now in supernatural, heaven-sent ways. For some of you, as you try to make sense out of some of the things that are happening in front of you, stop. Stop trying to make sense out of what God is doing and be faithful to his leading, and put your focus on that instead. What I want all of us to recognize this morning is that there may be obstacles in front of us. There may be doors that have opened or closed, relationships that have presented themselves or have, for a lack of better words, ceased to exist. And God may be doing something in those. What I want all of you to recognize is that for some of you, you're so busy with the noise, with every quiet moment that you have, opening up your phone and checking something on it, and it may be keeping you from hearing the interruption of God. And I'm being dead serious when I say this next sentence. For some of you, social media may be the greatest obstacle between you and God right now. For some of you, your technology, the TV, the stupid omnipresent phone that we carry with us everywhere that we go may be keeping you from hearing the voice of God. What I want all of us to recognize this morning is that things are moving. God is doing something in our time right now that he has not been doing up until this point. God is interrupting our lives. God is interrupting our visions. God is interrupting our sleep. And God is moving in ways that he has not moved before. In Luke 10, you have this story that Jesus tells of a man walking down the road. And as he's walking down the road, he is robbed by thieves who steal him, strip his clothes, and beat him almost to death and then leave him on the road. And as Jesus tells this story, you have these three individuals: a priest who walks by, sees this man, and refuses to allow his day to be interrupted. You have a Levite who is also a spiritual leader who walks by, sees this man, and refuses to have his day be interrupted. And then you have a Samaritan, an enemy of the Jew, who walks by and sees this man laying there, and instead of passing by like the other two had done, he allows his day to be interrupted. And he takes care of this man, and he cleans him up, and he picks him up and takes him to an inn. He allows his finances to be interrupted. He allows his meetings to be interrupted. He probably didn't make it to whatever it was that he was headed to that day. What's tough is that for the first two, for the priest and for the Levite who walk right by this man, these are spiritual men who were so busy, who were so focused on their schedule that they wouldn't allow themselves to be interrupted. I want to challenge all of you with one simple challenge this morning. Allow your life to be interrupted. Allow your calendar and your schedule to be interrupted. Allow your sleep to be interrupted. Allow your conversations and maybe your relationships to be interrupted by something that God is doing. While all of us may generally hate interruptions and refuse to allow ourselves to be interrupted, my challenge to you is this: allow yourself to be interrupted by the things of God. Maybe look at some of the interruptions in your life here recently, and instead of looking at them with disdain and anger or anxiety or worry, look at those maybe now through a different lens and ask yourself, is God trying to do something to get my attention? Again, for so many of us, because of our technology and our social media usage, we cannot hear the voice of God. We refuse to be interrupted. Allow yourself to be interrupted by the things of God. What if we learned to experience interruption differently? What if instead of waking up in the middle of the night annoyed that we're not sleeping through the night, we stopped and we asked what Samuel asked: "Here I am, Lord. What is it that you want from me? Here is your servant." What if, excuse me, what if we began taking the times of quiet that we have in our day or the moments between meetings, and we simply asked God, what is it that you want from me right now in this moment? What if we stopped looking at these interruptions as being untimely and annoying and begin looking at them and asking God if He was wanting to do something in that moment with us? All of us right now are living in a time where God is interrupting us at a frequency that I have not seen, and I certainly don't remember. I have stories that I could tell you right now of interruptions that have taken place in my life over the last couple of months that maybe in time I will share, but that would blow your mind. Things have happened even this week, and interruptions that typically maybe would have bothered me, or I would have written them off of being insignificant. But God has my attention, and I know that He has the attention of many of you as well. As you look at the story of Samuel, you have a man who was given the privilege of walking with God and leading for God, and as God revealed Himself to him, it was done through the Word. Some of you need to get rid of social media. Some of you need to stop turning on the TV. Some of you need to leave the radio off in the car when you're driving and listen. Some of you need to start journaling and write down. It may be insignificant, whatever the interruption is, but you need to write it down and just spend some time praying over that, asking if God is in that. Some of you need to keep a journal or your notes app open on your phone so in the middle of the night when you wake up, you can write down what it is that God might be speaking to you. You need to allow yourself to be interrupted. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a German pastor, an author, a theologian, he once wrote this. He said, "We must be ready to allow ourselves to be interrupted by God. God will be constantly crossing our paths and canceling our plans by sending us people with claims and petitions. We may pass them by, preoccupied with our more important tasks. It is a strange fact that Christians and even ministers frequently consider their work so important and urgent that they will allow nothing to disturb them." This week, don't be like the priest. Don't be like the Levite. Be like the Samaritan and allow God to interrupt your schedule. The Christian's job is to listen to God and care about what God says above everything else in every moment. Let me read that again. The Christian's job is to listen to God and care about what God says above everything else in every moment. God has been disrupting people's lives for holy reasons for a very long time. And for the men and women who see and hear those interruptions, these stories become the best stories of their lives. So let me ask you this morning, where is God disrupting you right now? Where is God interrupting you right now? And what is it that God could be calling or speaking to you through those interruptions right now?
In this moment, we remember. We remember the sacrifice of our Savior, the forfeiture of life so we could be free from death. We remember his broken body, bruised and beaten for our transgressions, the bloodshed to cleanse the crimson stain sin had left behind. We remember the simple truth that God loved us so much, he gave his only Son. Today we remember, today we gather at the cross.